Now it's time to meet our main speaker. At the Florida State University College of Medicine, we talk a lot about our mission, and we take pride in our outcomes. Great test scores, outstanding match results, residency programs who ask how we can get more of our graduates to come to their programs. Let me tell you about another great outcome. His name is Dr. Jimmy Moss, class of 2010. Before he became Dr. Moss, his story read more like a tragedy. At age 10, he, his two younger siblings, and grandmother were in survival mode, moving from one Broward County housing complex to another, trying to get by on little income she could generate from janitorial jobs. When he was 12, they moved to New Jersey, hoping some of the many relatives could help. Instead, they ended up in a homeless shelter. Between first grade and high school, Jimmy and his siblings spent brief periods of time living with at least 21 different relatives, and at age 13, he became the family breadwinner by taking a job in a tire factory. Medical school? Nah, not everybody grows up dreaming to becoming a doctor. Jimmy Moss had too many other things on his mind. Yet, he found school, no matter at what level, to be a safe place. He found comfort there, and he excelled academically. His path, no matter how different from the one most medical students travel, brought him here. He loved our mission, thought we had what it takes to become the compassionate and competent physician who embodies our mission statement, and that is exactly what he has become. Dr. Moss has just completed his residency at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville in internal medicine and is presently doing an anesthesia critical care fellowship there. We're very proud of what he's doing and what he represents for the College of Medicine. He spends time mentoring inner city youth wherever the opportunity presents itself, and I've seen Jimmy go out of his way on more than one occasion to meet and mentor colleagues, friends, and people from junior high, high school, and everything on up. He's a wonderful mentor, a wonderful embodiment of our mission. It's my pleasure to bring you Dr. Jimmy Moss.
Wow. I didn't know he was talking about it first. I was like, that's me. I went down to the river and sat down by the banks. I tried to think but couldn't, so I jumped in and sank. I came up once and hollered. I came up twice and cried. And if it hadn't been so cold, y'all, I might have sunk and died. But it was cold in that water. It was cold. I took the elevator 16 floors above the ground. I thought about my baby, and I thought I would jump down. I stood there and hollered. I stood there and cried. And if it hadn't been so high, Lindsay, I might have jumped and died, but it was high up there, Tamara. It was high. So since I'm still living, well, I guess I will live on. I mean, I could have died for love, but for living, I was born. And though you may hear me holler, and you may see me cry, I'll be dog sweet, baby, if you're going to see me die. Because life is fine, fine as wine. Life is fine. The first time I recited that poem was approximately 8 years ago in the main lecture hall that you receive most of your lectures from your wonderful professors up here. I was talking to a group of eager pre-medical students as I was trying to get them to vote for me for their vice president seat in their Multicultural Association of Pre-Health Students. The next time I recited is about 5 to 6 years ago at various high schools in the community, trying to encourage young people from broken homes and dysfunctional families to make more insightful decisions. I recited it about 3 years ago at our graduate ceremony. I was giving an award to Dr. McAlpin with North Florida Women's Center, trying to show him how much we appreciated the sense of urgency he put in our lives about living wonderful lives. And about 1.5 years ago, me and Dr. Littles were in Jacksonville, Florida at a symposium to increase diversity in medicine, and I recited it to those individuals as well. And recently, I sadly yet courageously recited it one more time on March 11th of this year to a group of loved ones and friends and family members in a church pulpit podium at Crusaders for Christ Church in Bristol, New Jersey, as I performed the eulogy at my mother's funeral. Life. The beauty of life is relevancy, right? We've all been given our own portion a short time period to share it with the world. And you have made the distinct and honorable decision to share a portion of your life through this wonderful and magnificent field that we call medicine. We're here to celebrate you today, you and the GHHS recipients, because you represent the next phase of this transition of all of our efforts, your family members, your esteemed faculty members, but more importantly, your fellow peers. I could sit up here and tell you numerous of stories and things about residency experiences and all the things I've been through, but given the short amount of time I have, I'd rather give you 3 pieces of advice that I think is going to help you live more fruitful lives. The first piece of advice I would like to leave with you is to always, always, my friends, be awesome. And I don't mean that in the sense of being hubris. I mean, be awesome in your efforts. The definition of awesome is the combining of fear, veneration, or dignity with wonder. You represent a career field that you have been called into. You didn't make this decision picked you. You have the responsibility to take care of people, not planes, not automobiles. Those are very, very important jobs. But you have the responsibility to take care of people. And now you just don't have a white coat. You have an emblem. You have blood, sweat, and tears, people who have fought for this institution to be what it is today, the great institution it is today. You represent that next phase of awesomeness, if that's even a word. You are the next chapter in this institution's storied history. And when you take care of your patients, look inside of yourself. That fearful moment turn into a sense of dignity. And when you walk into a patient's room, understand that that is what I like to call a wonderful moment. You now have that badge of honor, and I pray that you take that very, very, very serious. As you go out into these different hospitals and in the community, you're going to see a lot of innovations in medicine. And a lot of those innovations came because people in your seat long times ago had an imagination. So my next piece of advice is to never lose your imagination. I remember when I was 5 years old, you probably remember as well when you were 5 or 6 and someone walked into a big classroom or maybe wherever you were at and said, "Who can run fast?" Everybody raised their hand. "I can run fast." Who can sing? Oh, I can sing. Who can spit the furthest? I can spit. But as we got older, as we allowed other people's opinions to define who we are, a lot of us lost our imagination. But medicine, you're going to be surrounded by so many advances in technologies because people were imaginative. And I encourage you to continue to be that. Continue to let that fire inside of you, that inquisitiveness the TAs taught you in gross anatomy, take that urge and that sense of desire with you as you go into this next phase of your career. Some of the things I learned about in residency, I completely blew my mind. And it had to be a bunch of quirky doctors sitting around thinking this stuff up. I was going through a patient's medical history, and it said they had an ileal conduit. And I was like, "What's an ileal conduit?" So I looked it up on Wikipedia. I'm sorry, Nancy Clark. I'm sorry. I apologize. And it said an ileal conduit is when they take a portion of the small intestines, the ileum, and they put it to the side, and someone may have bladder cancer. They remove their bladder, and they sew the ileum up together into a little pouch, connect the ureters back to it, put it back into their belly, sew it up in there, and they urinate through that. And I was thinking, like, wow, who thought of that? What group of surgeons was sitting in a conference room was like, "We got all these patients with bladder cancer, and we're taking their bladders out. We don't want to put them on dialysis. What are we going to do?" I got it. But it's amazing because all of this innovation, all this technology can never replace you, can never replace the sense of pride that you have in taking care of patients. The mission statement at this wonderful institution, this medical school, is to create exemplary physicians. And you are already exemplary people. Now this is just the cherry on top. Everything that's inside of you is way more important than anything they can ever teach you. The people who taught you how to be brilliant, who taught you how to be resourceful, who taught you how to use your intelligence for a purposeful cause, sitting right behind you. And I'd like to give them a wonderful, wonderful applause. Oh. And the reason I want you to get them more applause is because after this expensive journey is over, you have to pay a lot of them back. You have to pay a lot of them back. The last piece of advice I want to leave with you, and I only have a short period of time, I have to get back to Jacksonville, is to make sure no matter what you do, that you just live your life. You're young, you're young in the sense of your spirit, not just age, but your spirit. And you have so much in front of you, so much opportunity, so many pathways. I mean, I remember Dr. Granville told me that I would pick 5 different careers before I settle down. I'm at my 4th one now, so I got 1 more left. But I'm asking you to live your lives because this is the only one that you get. We have some of the greatest medical minds on the stage right here, and you will run into people who will blow your mind when you go into different hospitals and different residency programs. But the best minds, the best efforts, all they can give you is a rain check. Like, we're merely postponing the inevitable. I unfortunately lost my mother to diabetes a little while ago, and the concept of how her life was summed up at the end by a disease process, it kind of bothered me. It bothered me because I wonder if the physician who took care of her, if they understood her life, if they understood her story. Angela Guzman just stood before you and told you the story of a patient's life. And some of you may have took it serious, some of you may have just let it go in out the other while you was looking at your fine white coats. But you will reach that moment, whether it be in radiology, whether it be in family medicine, you will reach a moment where you run into a patient that's going to change your life. I had a young lady come up to me today who walked up to me and said, Dr. Moss, a few years ago, you took care of my son. This is not in a speech. I didn't write this. She spoke to me earlier today. She said, Dr. Moss, you took care of my son. And he said, you made such an impactful decision in his life. He never trusted doctors. He never liked doctors, but he liked you. And I like to think that the people behind me added to that process. Moments like this, white coat ceremonies, gold humanism awards, I was a part of all of that. But what's happening in this room, this magical moment, this next phase of you living your life, is defining everything about you. These next 3 years of your life, you may change spouses, you may change locations, you may change last names, but who you are, the person that lives inside of you, the person that's in this room today, is the core of who you will become tomorrow. I challenge you all to be the best at whatever you can be. Whatever specialty you choose, continue to reach back to people who are in need. I think this medical school does a great job with teaching us how to care for people, and it starts with learning how to live our lives. So since you are still living, I encourage you to live on. I mean, you could have died for many things, but for living, you were born. And people will hear you holler, and they may even see you cry, but always look them in the eye and say, you'll never see me die. Life is fine. Fine as wine. Life is fine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'm sure it would be no surprise to any of you that Jimmy has been in great demand as a student, resident, and otherwise as a guest speaker at many ceremonies. And I have to tell you that one of the most difficult moments I've ever had was when there was a stride ceremony that was going on, and Jimmy was supposed to be the guest speaker, which is natural, and he called in sick. And so the leadership said, well, Dr. Fogarty, would you fill in for Jimmy Moss? And I said, you want me to fill in for Jimmy Moss? And so I said, well, he had contributed a poem to Heal, our magazine here. And I said, well, if I'm going to be there for Jimmy Moss, I'll do one of Jimmy Moss's poems. Well, the poem I chose was Black Little Boy. I think something was lost. I mean, but it's still a remarkable poem. I encourage you to go back through the Heal magazines and find it, because it's incredible, and I thank you for that, Jimmy. Yeah.